The 70 disciples. The 72 disciples were early emissaries of Jesus mentioned in the Gospel of Luke chapter 10 verses 1 to 24. According to Luke, the only gospel in which they appear, Jesus appointed them and sent them out in pairs on a specific mission which is detailed in the text. In Western Christianity, they are usually referred to as disciples, whereas in Eastern Christianity they are usually referred to as apostles. Using the original Greek words, both titles are descriptive, as an apostle is one sent on a mission whereas a disciple is a student, but the two traditions differ on the scope of the words apostle and disciple. Text. The passage from Luke chapter 10 reads, "And after these things, the Lord did appoint also other 70, and sent them by twos before his face, to every city and place whither he himself was about to come. Then said he unto them, The harvest indeed abundant, but the workmen few. Beseech ye then the Lord of the harvest, that he may put forth workmen to his harvest. Go away, lo, I send you forth as lambs in the midst of wolves. Carry no bag, no scrip, nor sandals, and salute no one on the way. And into whatever house ye do enter, first say, Peace to this house. And if indeed there may be that the Son of Peace rest on it, shall your peace, and if not so, upon you it shall turn back. And in that house remain, eating and drinking the things they have, for worthy the workmen of his house. Go not from house to house. And into whatever city ye enter, and they may receive you, eat the things set before you, and heal the ailing in it, and say to them, The reign of God hath come nigh to you. And into whatever city ye do enter, and they may not receive you, having gone forth to its broad places, say, And the dust that hath cleaved to us from your city we do wipe off against you. But this know ye, that the reign of God hath come nigh to you. And I say to you, that for Sodom in that day it shall be more tolerable than for that city. Woe to the Chorazin, woe to the Bethsaida, for if in Tyre and Sidon had been done the mighty works that were done in you long ago, sitting in sackcloth and ashes, they had reformed. But for Tyre and Sidon it shall be more tolerable in the judgment than for you. And thou, Capernaum, which unto the heaven wast exalted, unto Hades thou shalt be brought down. He who is hearing you doth hear me, and he who is putting you away doth put me away, and he who is putting me away doth put away him who sent me. And the 70 turned back with joy, saying, Sir, and the demons have being subjected to us in thy name. And he said to them, I was beholding the adversary, as lightning from the heaven having fallen. Lo, I give to you the authority to tread upon serpents and scorpions, and on all the power of the enemy, and nothing by any means shall hurt you. But in this rejoice not that the spirits are subjected to you, but rejoice rather that your names were written in the heavens. Analysis. This is the only mention of the group in the Bible. The number is 70 in manuscripts in the Alexandrian and Caesarean text traditions, but 72 in most other Alexandrian and Western texts. It may derive from the 70 nations of Genesis chapter 10 or the many other occurrences of the number 70 in the Bible, or the 72 translators of the Septuagint from the letter of Aristeas. In translating the Vulgate, Jerome selected the reading of 72. The Gospel of Luke is not alone among the synoptic Gospels in containing multiple episodes in which Jesus sends out his followers on missions. The first occasion is closely based on the limited commission mission in Mark chapter 6 verse 6 to 13, which however recounts the sending out of the 12 apostles rather than 70, though with similar details. The parallels suggest a common origin in the hypothesized Q document. Testament. Luke also mentions the Great Commission to all nations, but in less detail than Matthew's account, and Mark chapter 16 verses 19 to 20 mentions the dispersion of the apostles. What has been said to the 70 in Luke chapter 10 verse 4 is referred in passing to the 12 in Luke chapter 22 verse 35. He said to them, "When I sent you forth without a money bag or a sack of sandals, were you in need of anything?" No, nothing, they replied. Feast days. The feast day commemorating the 70 is known as the Synaxis of the 70 Apostles in Eastern Orthodoxy, and is celebrated on January 4th. Each of the 70 apostles also has individual commemorations scattered throughout the liturgical year. The record by Pseudo-Hippolytus. Hippolytus of Rome was a disciple of Irenaeus, a disciple of Polycarp, a disciple of Apostle John. Hippolytus's works were considered lost prior to the discovery at a monastery on Mount Athos in 1854. While his major work, The Refutation of All Heresies, was readily accepted, his two small works, On the 12 Apostles of Christ and On the 70 Apostles of Christ, are still regarded as dubious. Put in the appendix of his works in the voluminous collection of the writings of early Church Fathers. Here is the complete text of Pseudo-Hippolytus's On the 70 Apostles of Christ. James the Lord's brother, Bishop of Jerusalem. Cleopas, Bishop of Jerusalem. Matthias, who supplied the vacant place in the number of the 12 apostles. Thaddeus, who conveyed the epistle to Auguras. Ananias, who baptized Paul, and was Bishop of Damascus. Stephen, the first martyr. Philip, who baptized the eunuch. Prochorus, Bishop of Nicomedia, who also was the first that departed, 11 believing together with his daughters. Nicanor died when Stephen was martyred. Timon, Bishop of Bostra. Parmenas, Bishop of Soli. Nicolaus, Bishop of Samaria. Barnabas, Bishop of Milan. Mark the Evangelist, Bishop of Alexandria. Luke the Evangelist. These two belonged to the 70 disciples who were scattered by the offense of the word which Christ spoke, "Except a man eat my flesh, and drink my blood, he is not worthy of me." But the one being induced to return to the Lord by Peter's instrumentality, and the other by Paul's, they were honored to preach the gospel, on account of which they also suffered martyrdom, the one being burned, and the other being crucified on an olive tree. Silas, Bishop of Corinth. Silvanus, Bishop of Thessalonica. Chryses, Bishop of Chalcedon in Gaul. Epaenetus, Bishop of Carthage. Andronicus, Bishop of Pannonia. Amplas, Bishop of Odysseus. Urban, Bishop of Macedonia. Stachys, Bishop of Byzantium. Barnabas, Bishop of Heraclea. Phygellus, Bishop of Ephesus. He was of the party also of Simon. Hermogenes. He, too, was of the same mind with the former. Demas, who also became a priest of idols. Apelles, Bishop of Smyrna. Aristobulus, Bishop of Britain. Narcissus, Bishop of Athens. Herodion, Bishop of Tarsus. Agabus the prophet. Rufus, Bishop of Thebes. Asyncritus, Bishop of Hyrcania. Phlegon, Bishop of Marathon. Hermes, Bishop of Dalmatia. Petrobulus, Bishop of Puteoli. Hermas, Bishop of Philippi. Linus, Bishop of Rome. Keys, Bishop of Ephesus. Philologus, Bishop of Sinope, and 43. Olympus and Rhodion were martyred in Rome. Lucius, Bishop of Laodicea in Syria. Jason, Bishop of Tarsus. Sosipater, Bishop of Iconium. Tertius, Bishop of Iconium. Erastus, Bishop of Panolas. Quartus, Bishop of Berytus. Apollos, Bishop of Caesarea. Cephas. Sosthenes, Bishop of Colophonia. Tychicus, Bishop of Colophonia. Epaphroditus, Bishop of Andriache. Caesar, Bishop of Dyrrhachium. Mark, cousin to Barnabas, Bishop of Apollonia. Justus, Bishop of Eleutheropolis. Artemis, Bishop of Lystra. Clement, Bishop of Sardinia; Onesiphorus, Bishop of Coron; Tychicus, Bishop of Chalcedon; Carpus, Bishop of Berytus in Thrace; Evodus, Bishop of Antioch; Aristarchus, Bishop of Apamea; Mark, who is also John, Bishop of Biblopolis; Zenas, Bishop of Diospolis; Philemon, Bishop of Gaza; Aristarchus; Peuds; Trophimus, who was martyred along with Paul. The first list and other lists. Many of the names included among the 70 are recognizable for their other achievements. The names included in various lists differ slightly. In the lists, Luke is also one of these 70 himself. The following list gives a widely accepted canon. The names are listed below. James, the Lord's brother, author of the Epistle of James, and first Bishop of Jerusalem. Matthew chapter 13 verse 55, Mark chapter 6 verse 3, Acts chapter 12 verse 17, 15-13. Epistle of James, Agabus. Reference to in Acts chapter 11 verse 28, 21-10. Amplis. Reference to in Romans chapter 16 verse 8. Mark the Evangelist, author of the Gospel of Mark and Bishop of Alexandria. Luke the Evangelist, author of the Gospel of Luke. Cleopas. Simeon, son of Cleopas, second Bishop of Jerusalem. Barnabas, companion of Paul. Justus, Bishop of Eleutheropolis. Thaddeus of Edessa, also known as Syntydi. Ananias, Bishop of Damascus. Stephen, one of the 7 deacons, the first martyr. Philip the Evangelist, one of the 7 deacons, Bishop of Tralles in Asia Minor. Prochorus, one of the 7 deacons, Bishop of Nicomedia in Bithynia. Nicanor the deacon, one of the 7 deacons. Timon, one of the 7 deacons. Parmenas the deacon, one of the 7 deacons. Timothy, Bishop of Ephesus. Titus, Bishop of Crete. Philemon, Bishop of Gaza. Onesimus. Epaphras, Bishop of Andriaca. Archippus. Silas, Bishop of Corinth. Silvanus. Crescens. Crispus, Bishop of Chalcedon in Galilee. Epaenetus, Bishop of Carthage. Andronicus, Bishop of Pannonia. Stachys, Bishop of Byzantium. Amplas, Bishop of Odessa. Urban, Bishop of Macedonia. Narcissus, Bishop of Athens. Apelles, Bishop of Heracleon. Aristobulus, Bishop of Britain. Herodion, Bishop of Patras. Agabus the Prophet. Rufus, Bishop of Thebes. Asyncritus, Bishop of Hyrcania. Phlegon, Bishop of Marathon. Hermes, Bishop of Philippopolis. Parabas, Bishop of Potili. Hermas, Bishop of Dalmatia. Pope Lionus, Bishop of Rome. Gaius, Bishop of Ephesus. Philologus, Bishop of Sinope. Lucius of Cyrene, Bishop of Laodicea in Syria. Jason, Bishop of Tarsus. Sosipater, Bishop of Iconium. Olympus. Tertius, transcriber of the Epistle to the Romans and Bishop of Iconium. Erastus, Bishop of Panias. Quartus, Bishop of Berytus. Euodias, Bishop of Antioch. Onesiphorus, Bishop of Cyrene. Clement, Bishop of Sardis. Sosthenes, Bishop of Colophon. Apollos, Bishop of Caesarea. Tychicus, Bishop of Colophon. Epaphroditus. Carpus, Bishop of Beroea in Thrace. Quadratus. John Mark, Bishop of Byblos. Zenas the lawyer, Bishop of Diospolis. Aristarchus, Bishop of Apamea in Syria. Pudens. Trophimus. Mark, Bishop of Apollonia. Artemis, Bishop of Lystra. Aquila. Fortunatus. Achaicus. 1 Corinthians chapter 16 verse 17. Tabitha, a woman disciple whom Peter raised from the dead. Matthias, who would later replace Judas Iscariot as one of the 12 apostles, is also often numbered among the 70, since John Mark is typically viewed as Mark the Evangelist. Also, some lists name a few different disciples than the ones listed above. Other names commonly included are another Stephen, Rodion, Cephas, Bishop of Iconium, Caesar, Bishop of Dyrrhachium, another Mark, bishop of Apollonius, another Tychicus, bishop of Chalcedon in Bithynia. These are usually included at the expense of the aforementioned Timothy, Titus, Archippus, Crescens, Olympus, Epaphroditus, Quadratus, Aquila, Fortunatus, and/or Achaicus. Solomon, Nestorian bishop of Basra in the 13th century, offers the following list: the names of the 70: James the son of Joseph, Simon the son of Cleopas, Cleopas his father, Hoseas, Simon, Judah, Barnabas, Manius, Ananias who baptized Paul, Cephas who preached at Antioch, Joseph the senator, Nicodemus the archon, Nathanael the chief scribe, Justus, that is Joseph, who is called Barshabba, Silas, Judah, John, surnamed Mark, Nasson, who received Paul, Manel, the foster brother of Herod, Simon called Niger, Jason, who is in the Acts, Rufus, Alexander, Simon the Cyrenian, the father, Lucius the Cyrenian, another Judah who is mentioned in the Acts, Judah who is called Simon, Urian the splay-footed, Thorus, Thorusus, Zabden, Zachron. A more concise and acknowledged list is below. Achaicus, reference to in 1 Corinthians chapter 16 verse 17, Agabus, reference to in Acts chapter 11 verse 28, 21:10, Amplias, appointed by St. Andrew as bishop of Lydda of Odyssopolis in Judea. He died a martyr, reference to in Romans chapter 16 verse 8, Ananias who baptized Street Paul. He was the bishop of Damascus. He became a martyr by being stoned in Eleutheropolis. Reference to in Acts chapter 9 verses 10 to 17, 22:12, Andronicus, bishop of Pannonia. Reference to in Romans chapter 16 verse 17, Apelles, bishop of Heraclea. Reference to in Romans chapter 16 verse 10, Apollos. He was a bishop of several places over time: Crete, Corinth, Smyrna, and Caesarea. Reference to in Acts chapter 18 verse 24, 19:1, 1 Corinthians chapter 1 verse 12, 3-4-22, 4-6, 16:12, Titus chapter 3 verse 13, Aquila. He was martyred. Reference to in Acts chapter 18 verses 2, 18, 26, Romans chapter 16 verse 3, 1 Corinthians chapter 16 verse 19, 2 Timothy chapter 4 verse 19, Archippus. Reference to in Colossians chapter 4 verse 17, Philemon chapter 2, Aristarchus, bishop of Apamea in Syria. He was martyred under Nero. Aristarchus, whom Paul mentions several times, calling him a fellow laborer, became bishop of Apamea in Syria. Quote, Orthodox Study Bible reference to in Acts chapter 19 verse 29, 20-4, 27-2, Colossians chapter 4 verse 10, Philemon chapter 24. Aristobulus, bishop of Britain, the brother of the apostle Barnabas, preached the gospel in Great Britain and died peacefully there. Quote, Orthodox Study Bible reference to in Romans chapter 16 verse 14, Artemas, bishop of Lystra in Lycia. Reference to in Titus chapter 3 verse 12, Aristarchus, bishop of Hyrcania in Asia. Reference to in Romans chapter 16 verse 14, Barnabas, a Jew of the tribe of Levi, was born in Cyprus of wealthy parents. He is said to have studied under Gamaliel with Saul of Tarsus, who was to become Paul the Apostle. Originally named Joseph, he was called Barnabas by the apostles because he had a rare gift of comforting people's hearts. He sought out Paul when everyone else was afraid of him, bringing him to the apostles. It was Barnabas whom the apostles first sent to Antioch with Paul. The long association was broken only when Barnabas was determined to take his cousin Mark, whom Paul did not trust just then, on a missionary journey. The three were later reconciled. Many ancient accounts say Barnabas was the first to preach in Rome and in Milan, but he was martyred in Cyprus, then buried by Mark at the western gate of the city of Salamis. Quote, Orthodox Study Bible reference to in Acts chapter 4 verse 36, 9:27, 11-15, 1 Corinthians chapter 9 verse 6, Galatians chapter 2 verses 1, 9, 13, Colossians chapter 4 verse 10, Caesar, bishop of Dyrrhachium, Carpus, bishop of Berea in Macedonia. Reference to in 2 Timothy chapter 4 verse 13. Clement, bishop in Sardis. Reference to in Philippians chapter 4 verse 3. Cephas, bishop of Iconium, Pamphylia. Cleopas was with the Lord on the road to Emmaus. Reference to in Luke chapter 24 verse 18, John chapter 19 verse 25. Crescens, later bishop of Galatia. He was martyred under the Emperor Trajan. Reference to in 2 Timothy chapter 4 verse 10. Crispus, bishop of Aegina, Greece. Reference to in Acts chapter 18 verse 8, 1 Corinthians chapter 1 verse 14. Epaphras. Reference to in Colossians chapter 1 verse 7, 4:12. Philemon chapter 23. Epaphroditus, bishop of the Thracian city of Adriaca. Reference to in Philippians chapter 2 verse 25, 4:18. Epaenetus, bishop of Carthage. Reference to in Romans chapter 16 verse 5. Erastus. He served as a deacon and steward to the Church of Jerusalem. Later he served in Palestine. Reference to in Acts chapter 19 verse 22, Romans chapter 16 verse 23, 2 Timothy chapter 4 verse 20. Euodias, first bishop of Antioch after St. Peter, he wrote several compositions. At the age of 66, under the Emperor Nero, he was martyred. Reference to in Philippians chapter 4 verse 2. Fortunatus. Reference to in 1 Corinthians chapter 16 verse 17. Gaius, bishop of Ephesus. Reference to in Acts chapter 19 verse 29, 20-4. Romans chapter 16 verse 23. 1 Corinthians chapter 1 verse 14. 3 John chapter 1. Hermas, bishop in Philippopolis. He wrote The Shepherd of Hermas. He died a martyr. Reference to in Romans chapter 16 verse 14. Hermes, bishop of Dalmatia. Reference to in Romans chapter 16 verse 14. Herodion, a relative of the Apostle Paul, bishop of Neopathia. He was beheaded in Rome. Reference to in Romans chapter 16 verse 11. James, brother of the Lord. James was the patriarch of Jerusalem. Reference to in Matthew chapter 13 verse 55, Mark chapter 6 verse 3, Acts chapter 12 verse 17, 15-13. Epistle of James. Jason, bishop of Tarsus, traveling with Sosipater to Corfu, the two were able, after an attempt made at their lives by the king of Corfu, to convert his majesty. Reference to in Acts chapter 17 verses 5-9. Justus, brother to the Lord and bishop of Eleutheropolis. He was the half-brother of Christ through Joseph's previous marriage to Salome. He died a martyr. Reference to in Acts chapter 1 verse 23, 18-7, Colossians chapter 4 verse 11. Linus, bishop of Rome. Reference to in 2 Timothy chapter 4 verse 21. Lucius, bishop of Laodicea. Reference to in Acts chapter 13 verse 1, Romans chapter 16 verse 21. Luke the Evangelist. He is the author of the Gospel of Luke and the founder of iconography. Reference to in Colossians chapter 4 verse 14, 2 Timothy chapter 4 verse 11, Philemon chapter 24. Mark the Evangelist. He wrote the Gospel of Mark. He also founded the Church of Alexandria, serving as its first bishop. Reference to in Acts chapter 12 verses 12, 25, 15, 37-39, Colossians chapter 4 verse 10, 2 Timothy chapter 4 verse 11, Philemon chapter 24, 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 13, Mark. Narcissus, ordained by the Apostle Philip as Bishop of Athens, Greece. Reference to in Romans chapter 16 verse 11, Nicanor, one of the original 7 deacons. He was martyred on the same day as the promartyr Stephen. Reference to in Acts chapter 6 verse 5, Olympus beheaded with St. Peter under Nero. Reference to in Romans chapter 16 verse 15, Onesimus preached the gospel in many cities. He was made bishop of Ephesus, and later bishop of Byzantium. He was martyred under the Emperor Trajan. Reference to in Colossians chapter 4 verse 9, Philemon chapter 10. Onesiphorus, bishop of Colophon, and later of Corinth. He died a martyr in Parium. Reference to in 2 Timothy chapter 1 verse 16, 4:19. Parmenas, one of the original 7 deacons. He preached throughout Asia Minor, and later settled in Macedonia. He was a bishop of Soli. He died a martyr in Macedonia. Reference to in Acts chapter 6 verse 5, Patrobas, bishop of Neapolis. Reference to in Romans chapter 16 verse 14, Philemon. He, with his wife Apphia and the apostle Archippus, were martyred by pagans during a pagan feast. Reference to in Philemon chapter 1, Philip the deacon. He was born in Palestine, and later preached throughout its adjoining lands. In Acts, he converts a eunuch of Candace, queen of Ethiopia, to Christ. He was later made bishop by the apostles at Jerusalem, who also sent him to Asia Minor. Reference to in Acts chapter 6, 8:21-8, Philologus, ordained bishop of Sinope by the apostle Andrew. Reference to in Romans chapter 16 verse 15, Phlegon, bishop of Marathon in Thrace. Reference to in Romans chapter 16 verse 14, Prochorus, one of the original 7 deacons. He was made bishop of Nicomedia by St. Peter. He was later banished with the apostle John to the island of Patmos. In Antioch, he died a martyr. Reference to in Acts chapter 6 verse 5, Pudens. He was an esteemed member of the Roman Senate, then received SDS. Peter and Paul into his home, and was converted to Christ by them. He was martyred under Nero. Reference to in Acts chapter 6 verse 5, Quadratus, bishop of Athens. He was author of the Apologia. He was stoned, but survived. Soon after, he died of starvation in prison. Quartus, bishop of Beirut. Reference to in Romans chapter 16 verse 23, Rufus, bishop of Thebes, Greece. Reference to in Mark chapter 15 verse 21, Romans chapter 16 verse 13, Silas, bishop of Corinth. Reference to in Acts chapter 15 verses 22-40, 16, 19-40, 17-4, 15, 18-5, 2 Corinthians chapter 1 verse 19, 1 Thessalonians chapter 1 verse 1, 2 Thessalonians chapter 1 verse 1, 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 12, Simeon, son of Cleopas. Simeon, son of Cleopas, succeeded James as Bishop of Jerusalem. Orthodox Study Bible. He was martyred through torture and crucifixion at the age of 100. Reference to in Matthew chapter 13 verse 55, Mark chapter 6 verse 3, Sosipater, ordained Bishop of Iconium by the Apostle Paul, his relative. With St. Jason, he converted the king of Corfu. Reference to in Romans chapter 16 verse 21, Sosthenes became bishop of Caesarea. Orthodox Study Bible. Reference to in 1 Corinthians chapter 1 verse 1, Stachys, ordained by St. Andrew to be bishop of Byzantium. Reference to in Romans chapter 16 verse 9. Stephen the Promoter and Archdeacon. Reference to in Acts chapter 6 verse 5-7 to 68 to 2, 11, 19, 22, 20. Tertius, Bishop of Iconium. He wrote down St. Paul's letter to the Romans. He died a martyr. Reference to in Romans chapter 16 verse 22. Thaddeus. He was baptized by John the Baptist. He later preached and founded a church in Beirut. Reference to in Matthew chapter 10 verse 3, Mark chapter 3 verse 18. Timon, one of the original 7 deacons, and later Bishop of Bostra. He was thrown into a furnace, but emerged unharmed. Reference to in Acts chapter 6 verse 5. Timothy. He accompanied St. Paul often, and both 1 and 2 Timothy are addressed to him. He was ordained Bishop of Ephesus by St. Paul. He died a martyr. Reference to in Acts chapter 16 verse 1, 17, 14, 15, 18 to 5, 19, 22, 20 to 4. Romans chapter 16 verse 21, 1 and 2 Timothy. Titus. Among the more prominent of the 70 was the Apostle Titus, whom Paul called his brother and his son. Born in Crete, Titus was educated in Greek philosophy, but after reading the prophet Isaiah he began to doubt the value of all he had been taught. Hearing the news of the coming of Jesus Christ, he joined some others from Crete who were going to Jerusalem to see for themselves. After hearing Jesus speak and seeing his works, the young Titus joined those who followed him. Baptized by the Apostle Paul, he worked with and served the great apostle of the Gentiles, traveling with him until Paul sent him to Crete, making him bishop of that city. It is said that Titus was in Rome at the time of the beheading of St. Paul and that he buried the body of his spiritual father before returning home. Back in Crete, he converted and baptized many people, governing the church on that island until he entered into rest at the age of 94. Quote, Orthodox Study Bible. Reference to in 2 Corinthians chapter 2 verse 13, 7 to 6-14, 8 to 6-23, 12, 18. Galatians chapter 2 verses 1 to 3. Epistle to Titus. Trophimus, disciple of St. Paul, and martyred under Nero. Reference to in Acts chapter 20 verse 4, 21-29, 2 Timothy chapter 4 verse 20. Tychicus succeeded him in that city. Orthodox Study Bible. He delivered St. Paul's letter to the Ephesians and Colossians. Reference to in Acts chapter 20 verse 4, Ephesians chapter 6 verse 21, Colossians chapter 4 verse 7, 2 Timothy chapter 4 verse 12, Titus chapter 3 verse 12. Urbanus, ordained by the Apostle Andrew as Bishop of Macedonia. He died a martyr. Reference to in Romans chapter 16 verse 9, Zenas, Bishop of Diospolis in Palestine. Reference to in Titus chapter 3 verse 13. Additional names: Alphaeus, father of the Apostle James and Matthew. Apphia, wife to the Apostle Philemon. The church had gathered in her home for liturgy, while pagans who had been celebrating a pagan feast broke in and raided her home. They took Apphia, Philemon, and Archippus to be killed. She suffered martyrdom and is commemorated by the Church on February 19. Junior accompanied Andronicus in preaching all over Pannonia. She was a relative to the Apostle Paul, and a martyr. Sylvan, Bishop of Thessaloniki, Greece. Reference to in 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 12, 2 Corinthians chapter 1 verse 19. Zacchaeus, appointed by St. Peter to be Bishop of Caesarea. Reference to in Luke chapter 19 verses 1 to 10. Early church building at Rehab, Jordan. Finding. In June 2008, Abdul Qadir al-Hussan, head of Jordan's Rehab Center for Archaeological Studies, announced the discovery at Rehab in northern Jordan of what he claimed was the first church in the world, dating from 33 AD to 70 AD, beneath the foundations of the church building dedicated to St. George at Rehab. We have evidence to believe this church sheltered the early Christians, the 70 disciples of Jesus Christ, who were described in a floor mosaic in the church above as the 70 beloved by God and divine. Though this claim spread in June 2008, it has been rejected by some since then. The mosaic floor Greek inscription had been inaccurately deciphered and says that the St. George Oratory was built in A.D. 529, with no mention of 70 beloved by God at all. There is no evidence of the cave underneath being a first-century Christian worship place. In addition, the early church likely did not yet meet in special buildings dedicated to Christian worship as that came later. As Christianity was legalized, the very definition of the word church, meaning simply an assembly, according to the known Greek texts, manuscripts of the New Testament with lists, minuscule 82, minuscule 93, minuscule 177, minuscule 459, minuscule 613, minuscule 617,